And earlier, Dr. Lee, you touched on calories, but I want to take some time and go into the nuances here because it seems like there's so many different camps, in the calorie realm. People that are diehard counting calories, people that say calories don't matter, and then I'm somewhere in between where I think they have some value, but they're not the whole story. How do you feel about calories when it comes to food consumption?
Yeah, again, I'm a scientist, I'm a doctor, so I sort of go by what does the science tell me? And then as a doctor, I think about like what's best for my patients or what do I know about how the body responds? And I'm a researcher because I really am excited to sort of see what are we newly discovering about the body. So calories to me is just a word. It's a label, and it's a label for the units of energy that we get from our food. It's our fuel. In the same way that we call gallons, or octane for gallons are how we call the quantity of fuel that we put into our car. Octane is the quality of the fuel, right? So calories are like the gallons. I don't want to get fixated on how many gallons, counting your gallons, gallons in, gallons out. Like that actually kind of beats the point. You're just focusing on the volume of things. Look, I think what you want to do is focus on the quality of the calories, quality of the energy that you're consuming. Get good quality fuel in your body. Number one. Number two, don't overload your tank. Don't overload with calories. It's very simple. But, to get fixated on like the numerical counting, if you're really disciplined, you can do that. I don't have a problem with that. But for most people, I would say most people watching this, it's really hard to keep that up over a long period of time. And I would prefer people to not expend their brain power trying to count all the calories and make a log of it and all that stuff. Use your body, get into a harmony, get into a flow that works for you. Get your body in fuel burning, fat burning mode. Up your metabolism. You'll feel it. You'll feel more energy. And focus on things like making delicious choices for your food. Like in my book, Eat to Beat Your Diet, I read about 150 different foods that you can find in an everyday grocery store, in almost every section of the grocery store, and not expensive stuff either. They're very, very inexpensive foods. Put them together in delicious combinations that harken back to the Mediterranean cuisine or the Asian cuisine, or anything in between, and go about your way. Use your life. Time is the most precious commodity. And I think for people that are really trying to count calories, do it if you've got the bandwidth and if you've got the discipline to do it. Don't do it, and try to be a little bit more relaxed about coming into harmony with yourself if you have other better things that you want to use your time on.
I think it's important we address that just because typically, classically, when people come into the weight loss realm, what they're told by their doctor is to cut calories and move their body more. So a lot of people come to this conversation, that's probably all they've ever heard. So we just want to bring light to that part of the conversation and how it fits in.
Yeah. Now look, other things we have touched on, but that is probably worth at this point talking about is that you're putting fuel into the car. You want to really, don't forget, like the next day or, your next meal, you're going to be filling up again. We do know that your metabolism works best when you're actually burning fuel at a higher level. So that's staying physically active. Staying physically active can mean getting a trainer and working out. Doesn't mean that you have to train for the Ironman or a marathon. But it surely doesn't mean on the other end of the spectrum, sitting down like a couch potato, doing nothing, and especially eating junk while you're sitting down. So I think it's very important to know that regular physical activity, movement, even for a half an hour a day, that can be exercising. It could be working out. It could be just walking around your house regularly, moving. You want to move. You don't need a aerobic exercise. Cardio is always good for you, better for you. All right. But just regular moving, if you're walking, move your arms and legs. That counts as well. In fact, the study that I cite in my book, Eat to Beat Your Diet, actually shows that, amazingly, this was studied in England, even fidgeting can actually burn calories. So fidgeting will actually burn fat. Why? Because that fidgeting is like tap, 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 or shaking the legs, swinging back and forth. Even that is better than sitting down like a lump doing nothing. So stay physically active is absolutely vital for keeping your metabolism in good shape, because we do need to burn down some of those extra calories, the extra fuel that we're actually eating. Similarly, sleeping, getting a good quality sleep allows that extra burn as well. So movement, physical activity, and sleep, absolutely vital for being able to help burn body fat, help you with weight loss. And then, by the way, the other kind of leg of the stool is actually stress management. Because when we are stressed out, we've got cortisol pouring out of our body, which increases our waistline, builds body fat. We've also got noradrenaline, norepinephrine surging out of our brain. It's okay in short bursts to have that kind of stress hormone out. Kind of keeps us on the edge, sharp. Okay, but when it's continuously pouring out because like you are just so stressed about your work or about your relationship or about your whatever, your finances, and what happens is that excess adrenaline actually causes inflammation in your fat. And so, again, managing your stress. And by the way, here's something that I was quite fascinated by when I was researching and writing my book. Stress. What is stress? Well, it's a lot of things to a lot of people. What is one really common type of chronic stress? Anger. Anger that you hold inside. Look, everyone gets pissed off every now and then. Outraged, pissed off, you blow off some steam, whatever. But how common is it? And I would tell you it's very common. Everyone has it, where you just let something smolder inside you. You are angry and you haven't dealt with it. You don't know how to manage it. You hold it inside, stuff it. And then what winds up happening is that you are in a constant state of stress. That also screws your metabolism. So again, we talked about the eating and the time restriction of time restricted eating and fasting. We talked about all these other tricks as well in terms of how not to overload your food and whether you should snack or not. But all these other factors that you're bringing up, staying physically active so you can burn that fuel, getting good enough sleep so that your metabolism is switched into fuel burning mode, and managing your stress so you're not in a chronic state of tonic stress, so that your metabolism is derailed and you're in a chronic state of inflammation from your body fat. All these things play into each other.
I'm excited to share with you my favorite magnesium supplement, Magnesium Breakthrough from Bioptimizers. Each capsule contains 7 different forms of magnesium, and each type plays a critical role in how your body functions. Click the link in the description to save 10% off your order. I know you're going to love Magnesium Breakthrough as much as I do. And now back to the show. And I can imagine for a lot of people, they play into each other in a not so good way where, they're dealing with day-to-day stress, go. Maybe they're not sleeping well and they're staying up late watching Netflix or who knows what, and they're not moving their body. Maybe they have a sedentary job and they're gaining weight, and all these things are compounding the other way. The good news is these are things we can change. And a conversation like this is bringing light to the different pillars that people need to act upon and start to move the levers the other way.
Absolutely. I mean, very much. If you want ultimate health, what you need to start with is understanding how do we orient our body and our behavior in that direction, right? You want to head north, you got to figure out where north is first. So I think number one, understanding that our metabolism is very, very important. That's why I chose to write the sequel to my first book, Eat to Beat Disease. I chose to write it about metabolism, and I called it Eat to Beat Your Diet, which is a trick title because it's not a diet book. It's an anti-diet book, which is how do you find your North Star when it comes to health? By looking for your metabolism. Our metabolism is something we're born with, and it functions, helps us keep going until the day we die. And we want good energy. We want efficient use of energy. And we want to actually use every body part and its perform in our every organ in the best way it can over the course of our lives. So to get towards that ultimate health, understand your metabolism, the engine that drives you in the right direction towards ultimate health. And if you want to take care of your metabolism, allow your body to do what it is hardwired to do. Go through those 4 phases. Leverage the fact that when you're not eating, your body's burning down fat, which elevates your metabolism naturally. Make sure you're taking good care of your gut health. Don't eat too late. In addition to the effect on your metabolism, it also can mess up the circadian cycle of your gut microbiome. And then they get confused, and now they're not playing ball with you either. And so all these different kinds of aspects, play into adding exercise, physical activity, making sure you're getting good quality sleep, and finding ways to cope and manage stress. And I think this conversation, by the way, Jesse, is ever more important because of where we are in the world today. We just came out of the tube of real darkness and stress from 2020 during the height of the COVID pandemic. We've got all kinds of things happening in the world, whether it's war, whether it's climate change, whether it's economy. There's a lot of reasons that we need to kind of maybe reel ourselves back in and not just let ourselves out there on the fringes getting battered by these gale force winds. Bring yourself back together. Center yourself. Figure out who you are and what gives you that calm to be able to work on these aspects of diet, physical activity, sleep, and stress. Eat, move, sleep, smile. These are really core concepts.
We're going to get to some of the top foods soon that can help fix the metabolism. But before we do, I want to talk about, while we're still in that calorie realm, a lot of people, again, coming back to that classic advice where people want to cut down on calories and move their body more to burn fat. Let's talk about, because this ties into metabolism, let's talk about what happens to metabolism when we start to really cut those calories down, how that can slow metabolism and actually work against us.
Well, again, it's not a light switch. It's really more of a volume switch. So when we actually cut our calories down, one of the things that we're doing is we're slowing the fuel being loaded into our fat cells. And if we're cutting our calories down by giving our time more time not eating, we're actually giving ourselves time to burn fuel as well. But there is an extreme to that. So if you cut your calories so excessively, so extremely, severely, that you're actually just not getting enough fuel, that's pretty much like running your car on empty all the time. Like, we all have been through this, right? I mean, I could probably get to the store without filling up, or I could drive home without filling up. You know what that feels like. You feel like you're skating on thin ice. Like, maybe you'll probably make it, but maybe you won't. Like, that's actually stressful itself. And our metabolism actually feels stressed out when it knows that it is running out of fuel. That's why it's so important for us to listen to our body. And by the way, when we actually run out of fuel stored from our fat, you know where the metabolism normally goes to draw energy? Our body goes. It starts to knock out muscle. It starts to burn your muscle. And this really is sort of the kiss of death. You cross that line to start burning fuel from your fat, and you start burning down muscle, and you start losing muscle mass. Now you're in a world of hurt. In fact, almost all the studies have shown it's a lot worse to be sarcopenic, which means that you're burning down and losing muscle mass, than it is to gain a little extra body fat. Body fat is really good. Muscle is absolutely critical. When you are cutting your calories so severely that you're cutting into your muscle, man, like this is the beginning of the end. Like, you actually need metabolic resuscitation in that sense. Clinical studies have actually shown, when they look at people who go for a heart procedure called a cardiac catheterization, this is where the cardiologist takes you into the cath lab, they call it. We call it, and basically they put a little wire through your leg up into your heart, and they squirt a little dye, and on a screen they can actually see how well your blood is flowing into the big vessels of your heart. If there's a blockage, you'll spot it right there, and you can stent it open or knock it out, drill it, suck it out. So that's very common. It's a procedure that's invasive. There's a little bit of risk to it, and studies have shown that people who are ultra skinny and underweight are at greater risk for complication and death from that procedure than people who are overweight or obese. Surprisingly, right? You'd think a skinny person might have less heart disease. Well, it turns out that if you have a complication of the medical procedure, being sarcopenic and having drawn down on your muscle mass, losing muscle mass, is a lot more dangerous than actually having a little bit extra body fat.
And tying in this muscle piece back to exercise, this can be another way, going the other way, building muscle, a good way to enhance your metabolism.
That's right.
And help with glucose regulation.
That's right, because actually building up your muscle the muscle itself requires more metabolism, more metabolic capability to maintain that extra muscle mass. It's just sort of like, You're going to bring an extra sports car into your garage. You're going to need more fuel, more better fuel, right? So basically, this is what happens when we're working out. A lot of people think about it as feeling better, which is very, very important. Like thinking about your long-term health is a conceptual goal. You can't get in a time machine to know what you're going to be like in 5 years or 10 years. So what you're doing is you're counting on how you feel and also how you look. Now, when you have more muscle, you're obviously going to look a little better. Most people feel like they're going to look better. But in point of fact, what it is you're improving your metabolic capacity. The other thing that's happening when you build extra muscle, by the way, a lot of people don't know this. When you work out, when you exercise, all right, building more muscle is about breaking down the existing amount of muscle you have. Okay, you stress it out by working out. You tear your muscle a little bit when you're lifting, for example, or when you're running. You're actually stressing out and stretching your muscles and damaging your muscles a little bit. That's okay. Your body is super resilient to exercise. And when it rebuilds itself and regenerates itself and uses stem cells to create more muscle, okay, what's actually happening, it's growing new muscle. It's got to grow new blood vessels and new nerves. It's got to gain more cellular metabolic capacity to be able to use your fuel even more efficiently. So for all these reasons, having more muscle mass contributes to your health.
If you enjoyed that clip, press here for the full episode. I'll see you over there.
60 can be the new 20 if you follow your metabolism. And it's the problem of excess body fat that actually shuts down, sits on top of our metabolism. So it's not that a slow metabolism causes us to grow body fat and gain weight.